Ever get that feeling, when you're scrolling through your feed that you're not just seeing updates, but maybe putting on a bit of a show yourself?
Oh, definitely. That constant urge to share, to react, to be seen.
Yeah. And that feeling is pretty much exactly what Emil Isaacson dives into with his book Köttrobotar, which translates to something like meat robots.
It's a really compelling perspective on our digital lives. He argues that the way our consumer society has sort of fused with the online world is fundamentally changing us,
Yeah.
and maybe not always for the better.
That meat robot idea, it sounds provocative, but what's the core of it?
It really gets at the idea of being driven by, external stimuli, a constant need for consumption, almost like we're programmed machines rather than, well, fully autonomous beings.
Okay. And to give you a sense of the journey Isaacson takes us on, the book has these main chapters.
Right. It starts by looking at our insatiable appetite for more stuff, more information, just more.
More everything. Then it looks at the role of elites, and then comes the chapter we're really going to unpack today. Alla Starpacine, ingen sitter publican.
Everyone is on stage. No one is in the audience. A striking title.
Isn't it? After that, he digs into information overload, feeling like you've eaten too much info, then the sort of wear and tear toll this takes, and finally some thoughts on maybe stepping back from it all.
So it's a pretty broad, but definitely interconnected look at how our digital habits and consumer urges are shaping, well, everything.
Exactly. And for our deep dive today, we're really zeroing in on that third chapter. Everyone is on stage, no one is in the audience.
Yeah, it feels so relevant to how we interact online now.
It really does. I mean, think about it. Do you ever feel like you're constantly performing for an online audience? It's a good question to ask yourself.
And that's the central question this chapter really grapples with.
Mm.
Ezekiel starts by laying out what he sees as a kind of fundamental, almost unspoken rule for healthy social interaction.
Okay, an unwritten rule. Let's unpack that. What's the traditional way we connect, according to him?
He describes it as this balanced exchange. Basically, you talk, I listen. Then I give my reply, you listen. You repeat that until, the conversation naturally concludes.
Right, that reciprocal flow, a genuine back and forth you'd hope for in a good conversation.
Exactly. The kind of thing that builds real understanding.
So how has the internet, and especially social media, messed with this basic dynamic?
Well, social media platforms, just by their design, often push us towards more one-way communication, broadcasting thoughts, sharing updates, posting photos.
Right, pushing content out.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But that crucial reciprocal listening part,
Yeah.
it isn't always there, or it's not the main focus. And the really interesting point the book makes is that we might not even realize we've slipped into this mode of just sort of projecting outwards.
Huh. It's like we're all busy giving monologues, maybe hoping for applause, but not actually truly connecting.
That's a great way to put it. And Isaacson argues this creates what he calls a social air castle.
The social air castle. Okay, intriguing. What's holding this castle up?
Well, this is where it gets really fascinating. He says it's built on our very deep-seated fundamental need to belong.
Which, as the book points out, isn't just some modern whim. This goes way back, right, to our evolutionary history.
Absolutely. Think way back to our ancestors living in small tribal groups. Your acceptance, your status within that group, whether it was, more patriarchal or matriarchal, was literally essential for survival.
Okay, so status wasn't about likes or followers back then. What determined your standing?
It was much more fundamental. Things like, could you get food? Were you physically capable? Did you have good social skills? Stuff that directly impacted your ability to survive and contribute.
Makes sense.
And crucially, this status wasn't just internal. It was constantly reinforced by the group's acknowledgement. That nod, that verbal agreement, it was vital confirmation, and it got hardwired into our brains over millennia.
So being accepted by the group meant safety, resources, survival. How does social media tap into that really primal part of us today?
Well, modern society has shifted the main stage, if you will, where we seek that confirmation. For many people, social media has become the primary arena.
And the signals of high status have changed too.
They've definitely evolved. Now, they often take the form of, say, displays of good health, gym selfies, or material possessions, fancy trips, even very public displays of charitable acts.
Right, the curated highlights reel. We share the perfect smoothie, the amazing view.
Exactly. And the book suggests we put these things online specifically to get interaction, the likes, the comments, the shares. These act as a kind of digital validation, confirming our perceived place in the modern social hierarchy.
It's like a digital echo of that ancestral group acceptance we were just talking about.
Precisely. And there's this sort of unspoken agreement underpinning it all,
What kind of agreement?
a kind of reciprocal validation. I'll like your post if you like mine. We engage with each other's content, participating in this attention economy.
Okay, so we're trading attention for validation.
Pretty much. But here's the crucial thing to recognize, the potential downside. This constant consumption of validation can become addictive. It can even lead to anxiety.
The endless scrolling, checking notifications,
Wow.
waiting for that next hit of validation.
Yes, that cycle.
Yeah.
You post something, you get interactions, which feels like a little status confirmation boost, and it creates this feedback loop. But then, when the interactions inevitably slow down,
Your brain interprets that as a drop in status.
it can, yeah, triggering anxiety, making you feel like you need to post again to get back up there.
Wow. It really is like a digital slot machine pulling the lever for that dopamine burst.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
And Isaacson explores how this whole chase for online validation can become completely disconnected from, genuine accomplishment.
How so?
Well, we see examples, right? People posting gym pictures maybe without actually working out,
Yeah.
or photographing a beautiful, healthy meal, but then eating something totally different later.
The whole fake it till you make it thing, but taken to a really performative extreme, getting the reward without the effort.
He calls it the shortcut to the shortcut. Seeking the appearance of high status, the validation that comes with it, without actually doing the thing or achieving anything tangible.
Now, the book brings up an interesting angle on how this plays out specifically in Scandinavian culture. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Isaacson looks at this unique blend you often find in places like Sweden, a mix of strong individualism and, at the same time, a kind of collectivism.
Individualism and collectivism. How does that work?
Well, there's a big cultural emphasis on individual self-expression, self-actualization, achieving your potential. But alongside that, there's a deep societal value placed on consensus, avoiding conflict, being very aware of what the group thinks. Gentle agent perhaps plays a role too.
So this tension between wanting to stand out but also needing to fit in and get that group approval.
Exactly. And Isaacson argues this dynamic makes Swedes perhaps almost ideal consummarians of social media validation. The individual drive makes them seek it, while the collectivist tendency makes them more likely to provide it to others to maintain harmony.
So it creates this perfect feedback loop for the online attention economy to really flourish there.
That's the argument, yeah. It's quite an insightful cultural analysis within the broader tech context.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, what about the darker side? The online trolls, the nethat or online hate. How does the book connect that to this performance culture?
It links it partly to the reduced social cues online. When you're face-to-face, you get body language, tone of voice, all these subtle signals. Online, a lot of that is stripped away.
And anonymity plays a role too, right?
Definitely. Anonymity can amplify this effect. Isaacson suggests that in this kind of detached environment, some individuals can exhibit what look like psychopathic traits.
Whoa, okay. Does he mean like actual clinical psychopathy?
No, he's careful to clarify that. It's more about the behavior. It's like the natural empathetic responses that usually stop us from being deliberately cruel face-to-face can get weakened online.
Right. When you can't immediately see the hurt you're causing, maybe those internal checks diminish?
Exactly. The lack of immediate visible consequences allows for a kind of behavioral disinhibition for some people.
It's like the digital distance creates an emotional distance too.
In some ways, yeah. And to add another layer, the book brings in two interesting psychological concepts: the Dunning-Kruger effect and the Peter Pan syndrome.
Okay, let's break those down quickly for anyone unfamiliar. Dunning-Kruger first.
Right, that's the cognitive bias, where people with low ability or competence in a specific area tend to significantly overestimate their own ability. They don't know enough to realize they don't know much.
Got it. The less you know, the more confident you might be. And Peter Pan syndrome.
That term generally refers to individuals who, metaphorically speaking, struggle to grow up. They have difficulty embracing adult responsibilities and might remain in a more adolescent state psychologically.
Okay, interesting concepts. How do they connect to this online everyone on stage environment?
Isaacson argues that the online world, particularly the tendency to follow and idolize often very young influencers, can put people who lack deep knowledge and real-world experience into positions where they're giving advice or setting trends.
Okay.
And because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, these inexperienced individuals might be overly confident, not recognizing the limits of their own understanding or the potential impact of their advice.
So you end up with a situation where maybe the least experienced are confidently leading well, perhaps equally inexperienced.
That's the concern, yes. It can create this problematic, almost narcissistic cycle, potentially contributing to psychological issues, especially the book notes, among young people heavily exposed to these often unrealistic online personas and advice.
Hmm.
He even draws some rather stark parallels to history. Think of very young, inexperienced rulers like Karl XII of Sweden or maybe Nero in Rome, whose lack of maturity and wisdom led to, well, pretty disastrous outcomes.
Those are powerful, maybe slightly unsettling comparisons. It really underscores the potential pitfalls.
It does. It highlights the danger of elevating confidence over actual competence, especially at scale.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into chapter 3, what are the core takeaways that really stand out for you?
I think the chapter really powerfully illuminates how social media has cultivated this intensely performance-driven environment, this constant pressure to be on stage, always seeking that external validation. It can so easily overshadow genuine human connection.
And lead to a distorted sense of self?
Exactly. The pursuit of likes and comments can become the primary focus, sometimes completely detached from real-world achievements or authentic experiences. It's all about crafting the right image.
And how does this tie back neatly into the book's bigger theme, the Köttrobotar idea and the digital consumer society?
Well, this relentless need for online validation essentially turns us into consumers of attention, consumers of approval. We become driven by the need for that next digital pat on the back.
So it reinforces that meat-robot analogy. Our behavior gets conditioned, almost programmed, by this craving for external affirmation within this digital marketplace of attention.
Precisely. We're consuming validation and performing to get more of it.
It really gives you pause.
Yeah.
So here's that final thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over. In a world where it increasingly feels like everyone is on stage, how do you intentionally choose to step out of the spotlight sometimes?
Mhm.
How do you cultivate a sense of self-worth that isn't purely dependent on those fleeting likes, comments, and follower counts? It's definitely worth taking a moment to reflect on your own online habits, maybe asking what truly motivates them.
Absolutely. And if this discussion sparked your interest, definitely consider checking out the full book, Köttrobotar, or even just exploring some of these concepts further. Dunning-Kruger, Peter Pan syndrome, the psychology of social media, there's a lot more to unpack there.